Today feels like a good day. I don't know. It feels like a good day to go live. I don't know why. It just, the energy feels good.
Well, we love going live on our Mondays. It's Valentine's Day. We're in full moon energy, full force right now. I think it's full moon at noon tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. So
I didn't know that. I have no clue what time any of, we know that Crystal does not pay attention. I just like know that when it's a full moon because I start to feel pulled, especially as like I told you, if I'm dehydrated, like it'll completely go whoosh with me. And I'm like, okay, Crystal, just like, I feel like it's just like waves. That's essentially how I put it. It's like waves pushing me in and out. So, can we talk about your Aphrodite energy today? Mandee, look at how sexy you look. You do look absolutely gorgeous and stunning, by the way. And I'd
I
also like to say that I absolutely love that you dressed all of your little pups in matching outfits. I loved that. I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, that touches my soul.
my little Valentines. Yeah, we got them those sweaters when I went to Vermont like last month, and I was like, oh, these are so cute. And they've got little hearts on them. And today it was so cold, so it was nice. We lucked out on. We had this beautiful event called Love AC at the Absecon Lighthouse here in Atlantic City on over the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And Saturday we had this like gorgeously freak amazing warm day, and it was like 60 degrees out and sunshine. And then it got much chillier the past couple of days. So today we were grateful for our cute little bougie sweaters. It was nice.
I absolutely love that. We have Jennifer, Monica, and Glenda. Hello, ladies. Thank you so very much for watching us. So we appreciate all of you. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you as well. And yes, it has been so flippin' bitter cold here in Michigan. You were like, hey, how's my California girl? And I'm like, I am good because in 2 weeks I get to go and visit for the first time. I am so excited to leave this flipping cold. It's so cold outside. And I don't know what it is about me and cold, but we don't mix. It's like two magnets like depolarizing against each other. And so I'm so ready to have a change and experience a change and also visit my husband. I know that sounds really, because I didn't mention him at all. And I'm sorry, Ben, if you're watching, I love you. But at the same time, warm is what I love. That's what I want so bad.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I like all the seasons for sure, but there's nothing wrong with being ready and wanting some warm. And you've been in the same place like your whole life, right?
Yes. Yes, I
Cold?
have. And like, I'm like you. It's stupid how much of a gypsy soul I am. Like, if we were to take Crystal back in the day, like when she was young and vibrant and like had all the adventures before Corey, no offense to my child either. He did not like stick me here. I just had to do mom things. Um, I would move all over the place. I have no roots. I don't feel rooted to any type of system at all. And so I think it's fun for me to be 41 years old and finally starting to have different adventures in different places that I haven't explored yet. And so I'm just like, let's do it. Let's go. I'm so excited. Yay.
Well, you deserve that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And why not? You've really like lived such a beautiful life so far and you've had lots of chapters and, why not start a new one?
Jennifer says, Midge, you are glowing. Is the move setting in? It is. It is. I mean, I'm so excited. I'm super, well, I want to say I'm nervous, but I'm not necessarily nervous. I feel like Spirit has bombarded me with all of the love and all of the messages and all of the things that I need to kind of put my mind at ease over anything that could kind of arise. There's always a transition, Mandee knows, and anybody who works at home or has like self business, there when there's transitions, it's a little difficult sometimes because then, sometimes we have fears. I know Mandee probably didn't necessarily have this because she said she's always moving. But I feel like I've just kind of said, okay, Spirit can do what Spirit wants to do, and I'm open to whatever that is. But also at the same time, I have wanted to transition out of what I do for years. I don't want to sit every single day in a chair and channel for people because I don't think that that's where I do the most work. I think I do the most work when I'm helping people and teaching people to understand the spirit in them and also understand the spirit like around them. Because if the communication isn't there, how can we tap in and understand the messages? And so my passion really is teaching, not necessarily channeling. I love to go to places and see spirit in their habitat and like talk to them face to face instead of people. So then I can be like, okay, this is a misunderstanding times 10, and this is what's going on. They may be jerks, but at the end of the day, they also have reasons for what they're experiencing too, because they are people. 9 times out of 10, what we're running into is also people. And so I just want to change in all forms right now. And I think that that's what they're doing for me, is setting me up for these things that I've been manifesting for the last 5 years. So I'm really grateful. I'm super excited, a little bit nervous, but overall.
I honor that. I honor it so much. And I love teaching. And I feel like that's like a big kind of initiation a lot of times on this path for many of us. And I love channeling. You guys know I'll pull cards and messages and things, but the real juice is like teaching people how to plug into their own souls and learning how to navigate this magical, amazing, cool realm that we live in here. And I understand that stirring. And I love teaching classes. So if you ever want to co-teach something, let me know. And retreats to come soon too.
Absolutely. It's so funny how many people are like, do you do spiritual awareness classes? I'm like, kind of. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like a focused gal when it comes to things. I generally like open it up to spirit to come through and people's guides to answer questions, because I think they know everything. Crystal can see this much, spirit can see all. And so I just kind of let spirit do it. But I've listened to people, and I used to teach before COVID. And then I kind of got out of it because, classes online, not as fun to me anyway. And so I think I'm going to get back into that and kind of open the door to see what that looks like. It's so fun. I'm just excited. So many things happening, Mandee, and I'm excited for every single one of them.
And if you guys are interested, this Wednesday night is a full moon, and we're having an online class and circle. Full moon online workshop, how to connect with your angels. So if you're interested, check it out. It's on SeaGoddessHealingArts.com under the events or classes tab. And it'd be so fun if you join us. And several people who are already here are going to be joining us. And I'm excited about that. And yeah, it's just great. So I also kind of for fun wanted to throw out like Super Bowl halftime show, like regardless of what your beliefs are about the Super Bowl and all the things. And yes, we know that naughty things are associated with it. I was so excited for the resurgence of energy for like everyone in their 30s and 40s. Like seriously, was everybody like so happy with it, right? I even threw it into my morning and it was
I know, right? It's so funny though, because like
I'm pumped with.
It's funny that you wanted to talk about that, because so did I. I have seen so many like mad posts. I'm like, why? It's so funny to me that the people who tried to keep us from listening to the music and like burn those damn CDs because they're going to kill the kids. We're the vagrants, Mandee. We are the ruined children. I mean, they're still trying to save us, and apparently it just hasn't worked for years, and they're still mad about that. I'm so sorry if there's any listeners that also were offended, but at the same time, there's no offense in any of this stuff. I love old school rap. That's what I was raised with. I remember being like 13 years old listening to Doggy Style. My mom did not know, by the way, but I was so listening to the uncensored everything and jamming to Snoop and Dre and all the fun stuff. And I'm just like, I was for it. I was living for it. And Mary killed it, by the way. She put her whole soul on that stage. Whoa, she was awesome.
She just was like, no more drama. I'm out. Like, it was so awesome. And I'm like, Mary J is like my anthem this week with the no more drama. And like,
I love her.
I just thought it was great. And everyone, I didn't really hear too many complaints, honestly. I think it gave everyone a bit of a resurgence, and it was a cool show, but at the same time, it seemed like you were just kind of at a concert, and like there wasn't anything too crazy, and it brought everybody down memory lane, and like the vibe was up, and that's what I liked the most. It's like I just felt like there was a surge in the collective energy because so many people were like, yeah, and got down, and it shared beats with other generations, and it was super fun. So if you guys tuned in and enjoyed that, awesome. If you didn't, that's cool too. But Crystal and I had a good time.
I was like, if it ain't your jam, that's fine. I mean, there are some things that I'm not necessarily feeling on the music department, but I had a blast. I loved it. I'm all about Eminem. I absolutely love him. Detroit. I mean, come on.
I was like, that's your home state, right?
I was like, absolutely loved the whole entire show. And I also was rooting for my new hometown. So
Very good.
and they won. And I was like, yay, it's awesome. I don't know. I had a great day. But also I listen to that stuff all the time. There's like no reminiscing really for me because I listen to it all the time. So I don't know. I'm a little bit different. I sage my house to Eminem sometimes just so I can get some extra stuff out and be like, yeah, let's be pissed today because I want to get this energy out. Let's jam.
This
So
is like a really good segue into one of our topics tonight, too. With this full moon energy, there's been a lot of irritation coming up and anger and like wanting to release and like kind of that whole like sick of your own bullshit, sick of other people's, sick of certain environments. Like there's this kind of like shaking happening right now because the kind of we're in the middle of winter here. We're like the last of the dead's kind of dying off and the rumblings of spring are coming and we're getting ready to really like nourish these like seeds within us. And so with this full moon coming up in Leo tomorrow, there's just a lot of fiery energy, shall we say. And it's really important to honor and to channel your feelings and, you know, maybe not take it out on your loved ones. That'd be really helpful. Maybe do something, you know, if you can go like throw some rocks in the woods or something like that, it could be supportive.
absolutely. It's funny because like there has been a whole lot. We talked about this. Like I said, she'll always talk about her irritations, and you all can put yours in there too, so we can address those things. Please do, because this is not Crystal's show. This is our show. Okay, I'll just talk and fill in the airspace. But at the same time, there have been so many things that have been surfacing over the past like 2.5 weeks with me specifically. Thank God I have a therapist again because she is really helping me digest some of the things that are stirring in me. And I love the fact that she's also very spiritual herself. And so she's kind of able to see a spiritual approach and like help me understand like how to ground and like reminded me cut those damn cords. Like every person we meet and come into contact with is like, you know, bringing cords into our life, and so many people, me included, don't remember to cut the cords throughout our practices, like clients, all the things. And so there's been a lot of stuff that have been stirring up, and a lot of like me having to let go. This whole transition literally is Crystal has no control over anything, and I think that's wonderful, but also I a little bit am mad at them for this. Because I'm so good at like trying to control my own life, because as a child and as like a young adult and as, you know, into these other spaces of our life where we feel like our root chakra is getting no stability, there was no safety, no security in a lot of different areas of my life. And so I think that that's why I tend to try to control everything around me, because I know that I can do it right. So like, you know, it's my way of making sure that it gets done and done the way that I want it to be. And in this, Ben is in charge of everything. And I am secretly losing my shit because I don't know how to let him be in control. So frustrating.
Frustrating, but like such a potent place to be in too, because it's important that we have control over certain things. Like we need to take responsibility for ourselves. And I do think it's important that we show up to be the best version of ourselves we can each day, which totally changes. However, we have to also accept and honor that other people are going to do whatever other people do for the best of their abilities. One of my favorite definitions of luck is preparation meeting the opportunity. So like when people get lucky, it's like, yeah, sometimes really random cool things happen, but a lot of times it's because you've been like working on something and you've been preparing for it. And then an opportunity comes through and you're prepared and you're ready to like move forward with that. And when we do ourselves a little bit of a favor and start to co-create more with the universe and let go of like micromanaging how everything's going to turn out or what way it's going to show up or things like that, then all of a sudden we can allow the universe to gift us. And we have this really nice, like kind of place where we're in this balance of giving and receiving. And it gets really exciting and it's really nice. And you start to build a lot of trust with your angels, with spirit, with the universe, with creator. And you get to learn a little bit more, but it's not easy. And it all starts, like Buddha says, like the root of all suffering is attachment. So it really does start with like releasing control over things and controlling ourselves to the best of our ability without over controlling ourselves too, because that can get out of whack as well.
Oh, yes. Crystal likes to do that too. When all else fails and I have no control everywhere else, that's what I'll do. okay, Crystal, this is how we're going to do things. It's like huddle. And so, yeah, I feel like all of the things that are taking place are kind of teaching me just to let go a little bit and remember that it's all going to work out. There was a time in my life where I had all of that, like knowledge. As a kid, you'd sit there and you'd go to go down the road with your bike and you'd stop and you'd look at a stop sign. You'd be like, red car. And then a red car would pull up. And then you'd be like, green car. And you thought you were like magic. I'm a Marvel character. Holy hell, I'm like a superhero. And that stuff kind of, we lose that a little bit. We lose that like belief and power and like creativity and creation as we get a little bit older and life happens. And it's kind of teaching me, I guess, to take a step back and be like, blue car a little bit and then watch it play out the way that it needs to go, because I have full faith that they want me to succeed. And so I think it's really cool, but also at the same time, like you said, transitioning, full moon, bringing all the things up. Is it a coincidence? I think not. But at the same time, I'm here for it, and it's going to be what it's going to be. And I feel like everything is just going to be sprinkled with like fairy dust and all of the things, and it's going to come together perfectly. I don't know. I just have this like calm understanding of how it's going to be. So
trust it. How about that?
And I do want to say that we have a lot of people who are talking about like also Cancer rising here. This is Glenda. Cancer rising here. Yep. Full moon energy is definitely being felt. And then we have Jennifer who says, did you say cut cords? Yes, I did say cut cords. The people we come into contact with in all places of our life, we have cords with, and that those cords can be siphoned energy. So it's not that people, I always try to tell people, like when I'm teaching them and their abilities to channel, Mandee, I'm sure, does the exact same thing in maybe different ways. But I try to remind people that, when you're sitting there and you're giving people energy, you're kind of surrounding yourself sometimes, specifically more with me. I don't know how Mandee's clients are. But anybody who has a negative mind space because of some of the things that they're experiencing, grief is a negative mind space, sadness, that's a negative mind space. It doesn't mean that my clients are toxic. It doesn't mean that they're meaning to have negative mind spaces. But the inevitable truth is that grief surfaces and heals. And so there's things that come into contact with. And so we come into contact with all these things, and then when we leave, our clients think about the situation. They pull us back in. They pull that feeling, that goodness, those vibes that they received. And so that's their way of kind of taking those energies, just like in your guys' life. You meet with somebody, a friend, they're having like a hard time or they're having a good time. It doesn't really matter. The connection doesn't stop once we leave the door. And so we have to remind ourselves sometimes to just remember to cut those cords and epoxy ourselves back together so nothing's leaking out after the fact, so we can feel wholeness within ourselves. And I got very lazy at cutting my own cords and making sure that I was taking care of myself.
It's easy to do. And we're not taught it. And it's something we have to remember. And cutting a cord doesn't mean you don't care, you don't love someone. You can cut a cord with your best friend and your mom and your partner and the love of your life every night, every day, at any point. What it's doing is saying, we definitely have learned through this COVID chapter, our biomagnetic fields go out about 6 to 8 feet around us. We talk about this often, and traumas can get stored in that area. And not only that, but when we do love and care about other people, the things that are going on within them or, their situations can weigh on us. And what that happens is it'll take energy from us at times. So it's really important for us to just say, hey, I love you so much. I care about what's going on in your world, but I got to come back into my energetic space. You got to be in your energetic space. Well, I'll get a good night's rest, and then we'll come and deal with things again tomorrow with a fresh perspective. And I say this often, but if there's people you're extra worried about, it's always important to trust, like we were talking about, that whatever is happening, though, as horrible as it may be, it's for their highest good. And it doesn't mean don't lend a hand, don't, do this or that, like do your best. But at the same time, we have to honor what each soul is going through and what they're choosing. And we can only do our best to hold hands or give out resources, but we can't stop anybody else from going through their pain. And it's not our responsibility, just like no one else protect us from that. And it's a really sacred journey. So just be gentle with it all is kind of what I'm getting at. And there's a balance.
I want to highlight this for you. As you were talking, Monica says, I was taught to dissolve cords so they can't reattach. So that's I was going to say but can't they reattach anyway?
I mean, I think for me,
especially like with like friends, family, people
well,
that we're
exactly.
close to.
It's a daily thing. So like that's why I think it's a spiritual
Yeah.
hygiene thing. I think it's a maintenance thing. Even just watching a movie, like you watch a movie that really inspires you, you might think about it a lot throughout a week, and like you've got a semi-attachment to it because it's coming in. That's not a bad thing. And like attachments aren't necessarily bad. It just means that we're just taking a little space to come back into our own vortexes. And like Monica said, there are times, especially with people who we don't have to see every day or talk to every day anymore. It's easier to completely detach and to let things go. But we can't control if someone thinks about us, or we can control a little bit more if we think about them. But it's just important to do some maintenance and some hygiene and make sure you're bringing yourself back into you and your center and honoring where everybody's at each day and having healthy boundaries.
I love that people are talking about this. Yes, I am trying my own ways of cutting cords. It feels right. I do it, then I ground off with the shoes and into the grass. Hey man, whatever works for you. I love the shoes. I generally don't wear shoes unless it's 2 degrees or lower outside, but you know, I'm with you right there. And then Jennifer says, do you guys think that it's possible to believe that your energy naturally returns to you? I am not sure that I believe in cord cutting since I haven't seen results after trying them.
That's cool. You want to go first?
So I am going to say it is a possibility that your energy can come back to you. I feel like everything is a possibility because I think it depends on the channeler themselves or the person themselves. So I'm going to say that, yeah, that obviously could be a thing. For me, it's not. I am somebody, I think, who has, through her 41 years of life, relinquished her power to so many people that I'm relearning how to control my power and whom I give it to. And so for me, if my energy kind of goes off in some other place, I think that because of how I have been conditioned and how my life has been, I think that I struggle with pulling that energy back to me. And also, I feel personally like the people that I'm trying to cut cords with, I don't want that energy back. It's already been tainted by theirs, and I don't have all of the time the most positive situations around me. And so I don't want that back. I am just like, okay, give it love, do what you need to, be with peace. I don't care what it is in those moments. I use the words that come to my mind, but then I take and I cut the cords and make sure that it is what it is. And I always bless the person, situation, whatever, with love the best way that I can, if it's for negative purposes or because I just want to take my power back. In all the other areas, the cord cutting literally is just a way for me to be like, okay, because my energy, I look at us like batteries. We have a plus, we have a minus, and we are conduits of the energy that flows freely through us. I don't think that my energy is just my energy. I feel like it's always filling and it's always like being received. And so I don't really feel like I lose my energy and it's like a brain cell. I don't think it's one of those things that don't come back. I think it automatically gets replenished. And so as long as I'm cutting the cords or dissolving cords or whatever it is that we want to do, and, you know, I'm kind of placing some sort of, I call it spiritual epoxy. I usually fill the end with light and make sure that I host whatever spot I feel like it's coming from. I put that with light and then I just allow myself to refill. It's almost like a never ending cup is, I guess, how I see that in myself, but how you see it is how you see it and how it feels right to you. I always tell people, go with your gut and what feels right to you, because that's what's working for you right now.
I like that a lot. And the interesting thing about it is I agree with Crystal. I like the concept of energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted and shifted. And I believe we create our own energy vortexes all day, every day. And if we break it down, like, what is energy? Like, I'm getting energy from drinking this tea. I'm getting energy from sunlight. I'm releasing energy when I'm exercising or laughing or excited. I think it's almost impossible to not cross cords, to not come into other energetic entanglements and stuff. That's why I think it's just important to just be mindful of your own energy and do some hygiene. And honestly, I think the biggest thing with cords are our thoughts. It's what we're thinking about. It's what we're concentrating on. It's what we're dwelling on. It's what we're believing about ourselves that create that attachment. If we believe every day, like, I'm super poor, that's an attachment to that. It's going to keep showing up. If I believe every day, I'm broken, I'm not healing, I have this horrible disease, it's going to keep showing up for us. There are attachments according to our thoughts and the energies that we're bringing in as well. And cord cutting really is just saying, hey, I'm just returning this to you at the end of the day. Like, I really practiced it a lot when I was a social worker. I would work leasing up people who were homeless into apartments and things. And a lot of times, like, it would take longer, and, people would have to stay on the streets longer. And I'd have to be the person that's like, sorry, this isn't available for you tonight. Like, sorry, like, we got to wait a little bit longer. And it was hard, and I'd feel really bad, but then I'd start to realize, like, okay, all I can do is take care of myself and be the best me that I can be and show up with love and compassion and do my job the best I can. And I'd start lighting a candle each night. And I just say, angels, if you can, please help whoever you can help for their highest good. And that was it. And then what that would do is it would just help me breathe and come back into me. Be like, what does Mandee need today? Like, I need to take a shower. I need some nourishment. I need some water in my life. I need a hug. Like, and when we start all taking accountability for ourselves, this whole new, there's this big, like, spiritual awakening happening. Some people call it an awakening, a war, a divide, all the things. This whole, like, revolution right now starts with our inner evolution. So the more we can manage and control our own energies, the better. I have a friend who asked me earlier, they were talking about, energies coming up and getting angry and being mindful of when they yell, and, like, whether they're yelling, just themselves around their house, or if there's, like, a kid around or a partner or something, and how, like, they hadn't really thought of just how much that disrupts the energy field when we're, like, screaming and yelling. Like, do we need to do that sometimes? For sure. But is it nice to be a little bit mindful of where we're choosing to throw that energy? Oh, yeah. So I'm really glad we're talking about all this, especially because everyone's feeling super energetic. And as we had Mercury and Venus retrograde. And as we're coming out of that right now and into this full moon energy, it's like, whoa. So a lot of people are feeling these undercurrents of, the best way I can describe it is a little bit of irritation, so that we can clear things out. It's a little staticky.
I love that. So I'm going to go back up because Jennifer says, I think cord cuttings can come in different forms, if that makes sense. But then she elaborated. She says, what I mean by that is that we can permanently remove the cords. Some we have to walk away from completely. Others we can kind of clamp the cord, like an umbilical cord. And this stops the energy vampires, etc., like a boundary of sorts. These cords will always keep a bond, but when that person is healthy enough, the clamp comes off, kind of doing the lines of what Mandee says. I kind of agree with that. I feel like I agree with that. I do. I appreciate that breakdown, Jennifer. That was genius. It was very, very good.
It's a healthy boundary.
So, yeah.
It's just saying, hey, stop, sucking the life out of me a little bit with these things. And it's sometimes like, it's nothing even like, sometimes it's like you sign up and you go to CrossFit and you're like, CrossFit's going to be the best thing in the world for me. I'm so excited. I can't wait. And then you realize you get there, you're like, okay, maybe I need to, like, go to yoga for a couple months before I jump into CrossFit, kind of thing. And we met a bunch of good friends at CrossFit, and we had this, like, great trainer for the week. And then you're, like, attaching a cord to it. You're like, oh, well, I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing like this job, or I'm thinking about all these things. And so, like, I like that idea because we could clamp that and be like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to put this on pause. Like, it was so great. It could serve me, but not right now. I'm going to jump into this and that. And then as I get stronger over the next few months, and when I'm ready, I can go back in and join this team. So it doesn't have to be like this negative thing either. Like, it's just energy. It's all just energy. And it's really hard to even break down what the positives and negatives really, like, mean. So I love that.
And then Jennifer, the other Jennifer, says, great responses, ladies. Yes, there really is a lot coming up, and Jennifer is eloquent with her explanations, right? CrossFit yoga reference is bomb.com, and the clamping, genius analogy. Absolutely. I was like, it really is, because it is. We always have a space to open the door again at some other time. We're in control of what we want to open up and what we don't want to open up. And it's just one of those things. It's kind of like, I always tell people, like, boundaries. When Spirit talks about boundaries, that doesn't mean shutting a door and locking it. And people freak the F out when you talk about boundaries. I don't know if your clients have ever been like, oh my God, I can't do that because my family. And I'm like, what the hell do you mean? I don't care who the heck they are, but we always have to have boundaries. Boundaries literally are just a space around us that says, this is how I want my space to be respected, and I'll respect you the same way. It literally is a system of, I will treat you the way that you treat me. However, I'm not going to treat you in a negative way because, I love myself enough not to be that person. I'm trying to grow, change, learn, understand in a different way. But at the same time, we allow the conversations that come in, and people tend to think that like everything is so like cut and dry. It's very black and white, how we're trying to evolve and see. When you talked about, the spiritual warfare and the changes and the ascension and all those things, I think that's one of those things that it's like spirit has really been hitting hard with people, is the fact that like, there is no black and white. There has never been black and white. There is this huge area of gray that people have not been taught to see because they think it should be black and white. And the more we see in between and in the middle, that's where actually the rising is. That's where the self-understanding is. That's where all the things are. And so when you do a boundary or when you cut a cord, there is no clamping it off, never opening that door again. There's nothing like that. It's literally what serves me the best, what's going to protect my space, what's going to bring the most love to me, and then follow that path. There's really nothing. We human things up way too much. Is the best way I'm going to say that. We make so many mountains out of things that are this big. It's just like it's the human brain and how we, I guess, digest certain things. But you guys are all amazing, because the fact that we're talking about that in a way, that wasn't something that I was opened up to when I first started this. I didn't even know what a cord was. And so I was like, what do you mean cut cords? And it all felt so final to me, and it scared me. It intimidated me to cut a cord, because I didn't want to like be done and shut a door. And so I can understand where my clients are, but it's so funny to see sometimes outside of that perspective, because spirit has literally been like, there's no black and white. The black and white that we make is within our mind. Everything on earth is just what's best for everybody else. You shared something beautiful the other day, and within 10 seconds, I was like, hell yes to this whole thing. Okay. You shared a YouTube video on a man who was talking about relationships.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's literally like kind of the same thing, boundaries, love, relationships, cord cutting, whatever. But it's like the black and white thought process behind that. Relationships shouldn't be work. Says who? You realize how many deaths of yourself you're going to have? Like, you are going to fall in and out of love with yourself. And you're also going to expect your partner to follow along with you.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like all of Ben's. All of the Bens that I have seen over the past like 7 years that we have been a part of each other's life, I don't like all of him. I don't like all of his versions. He was annoying, and I'm sure I've annoyed the hell out of him too. But it's not, relationships are work. They are work, especially if you're trying to co-create with somebody over a space and period of time, because we all evolve, we all heal, we all understand. And if you're the same person today that you were when you were 10, you're doing life wrong. So we have to allow ourselves that growth, and we have to allow ourselves to cut cords, and we have to give ourselves boundary, because that's part of evolution for ourselves. It's no different.
The boundary thing is huge. It's a huge thing that's coming up in my own personal life. It's been coming up for so many of my clients right now and in general. And there's this belief that in order to have unconditional love, that you don't have boundaries, or that you have to completely accept everybody exactly as they are. And I think it's important to accept everybody as they are, but you don't have to accept them into your energetic field or into your daily life or into something that's going to disrupt you. Now, I always encourage people to try to, do your best to grow a little bit. But when things get crossed too much, or when people aren't respecting boundaries, it's really important to acknowledge that, because a lot of times that's where our energy starts to get a little siphoned, or we start to deplete a little bit because we're not feeling seen or heard or respected. And most everyone on here that's tuning in and watching us, it probably resonates with being an empath. The most compassionate people in the world have to have the firmest boundaries. They do, because they step into their own self-love and self-worth and self-trust. I can't show up and be here and talking about all this stuff if I don't go for my walks each day and do my yoga and my juices and connect with my own spirit and get enough sleep and, all the things. And in order to do that, I have to have some boundaries. I have to have, hey, we can only talk for this certain amount of time, or at this time I've got to go and do this, or, this conversation doesn't feel the best. So let's take a break and reevaluate it. And that's a great time to cut a cord, especially if you're fighting with a partner or loved one or something like that. Taking a breath and saying, this isn't really going somewhere right now. Let's just cool off and breathe and maybe cut that cord, go out and experience something a little different, and then come back in together and see where we can go from there. One of the best ways I think to help cut cords is just changing your perception and perspective. And if you're caught on the same problem, you can cut a cord with like a problem you're having or something you're trying to solve, like, and walk away from it and go and do something else and come back with a new and fresh mind. It helps so much in so many ways. And if you're feeling called to have some sort of boundary or boundaries coming up, it's sacred and it's okay. I was listening to a great teacher who was just talking about, like, she's like, my grandmother had boundaries and she didn't have to tell us. Like, we went over to her house and there was like plastic on the furniture and like you weren't allowed to sit in it, and she didn't have to tell us that. Like, we just knew, and that was a boundary, and it was on the furniture. And like, it was just really interesting because a lot of people, you know, we don't realize that boundaries do exist all over, so that we have choice, we have free will, so we can determine where we want to step into and when. Sometimes we don't have that choice, but then we get to determine how we want to heal with it and understand it and step forward after it.
So after, I haven't read the lower ones. I went back up to the last one, and Jennifer says, Midge, may I ask you, that is what she calls me, Midge, for all of the new people here. I am medium, also known as Midge, and I appreciate that. May I please ask a question? Absolutely, you can ask a question, because that's kind of what we're here for. Ask away. No need to ask us if you can. So, Glenda says, yes, I feel like I'm creating a path right now and trying to decorate it currently. I love that. Like, what do I want it to look like at each day? What lights me up, etc. Yes, I feel that in my soul. Same. And I feel like Mandee also has like been going on that journey in essentially like putting all of the sprinkles that she can on her path as she goes too. So yeah, that's something that we all feel so much. Jennifer says, I felt that way about trying to cord cut for my husband. I felt like it was going to make us more distant. It made me feel very cautious. No, like Mandee just said, I think she put it perfectly. It's not gonna like distance you guys. And actually, the great Pat Longo, my beautiful, glorious mentor lady that I absolutely love. She told me in the very beginning, she was like, whenever you're like in a disagreement or a misunderstanding or anything like that, if you believe in Jesus, fill in whatever narrative you want. I'm just telling how Pat told me. Thank Jesus for coming into the situation and sending a beam of pink light and love from your heart to the heart of the other person, and ask for that to be for the highest good of all concerned. Because essentially what you're doing is you're keeping a cord, but at the same time, it's a healing cord. It's for understanding. It's for evolvement in the relationship. I also took that further, I will let you know, because at the time I was married to somebody who we were just like oil and water. And so on top of that, I also would thank my guides and his guides for helping him and me both see through the perspective of the other person. So it didn't work with him, but you can't force other people to be open. I'm just going to tell you, you can hope for things, but we can't force it. They did teach me perspective through him though. And it did help me understand, one, a lot about myself, but also how to take my power back from situations in that relationship and further myself on my path. And so the beam of pink light and love is healing. You can still do the cord cutting, especially if there was something ugly like Mandee brought up. We don't want to keep those cords. We don't want to keep that attachment because that's gross. When we say I forgive, we should be able to forgive and shut the book and move forward. I forgive does not mean bringing it up 500 times in the future, because God dang it, I still have not resolved those issues yet.
That's how you know you reach forgiveness, when it turns into wisdom. When you think about something that happened that once made you have an emotional charge that is now neutral. You think about it and you're like, oh yeah, that happened. But it doesn't have an emotional hold over you. If it has an emotional hold over you, you have not forgiven it.
So I am so honest with
the ultimate cord cutter.
I was like, seriously, I am so honest with Ben about this. And this was one of the things that he still is like flabbergasted with, because there are things that he did that I struggle still with kind of allowing to let go. And so when it gets brought up, I tell him, I'm not ready to forgive you yet. And the reason I'm being honest with him is because I know I'm going to bring it up again until I heal. And so with the things that I let go, I'm like, okay, I forgive you. We're moving forward from this moment. It is what it is. But with the other things, I make sure he understands that, like, hey, not healed over this, and it probably will be brought up again because I'm trying to understand my own healing. And 9 times out of 10, these are things from my past that are coming up in different ways, which is why I'm triggered to begin with. And so it's all part of the whole healing process, which is why it comes back up again anyway. So I guess as long as we're honest with ourselves, that helps, but we also have to be honest with our partners and our spouses as well. So you can cut the cords if you feel like it, or if you feel like that's good for you. You can keep the cords attached, but there's also different ways to bond you two back together after disagreement and after frustrations. And there's also different ways to heal and bring source into the situation, angels, guides, whoever, higher helper beings, and pull the situation back together and gift you and your spouse the ability to understand essentially what is taking place and why.
And there's a lot of ways you can cut cords. Like, I just like to, at the end of the day, like, I take a few deep breaths. I go over some things I'm grateful for. I wake up the same way. I ask my angels, please surround me in white and blue light and protect me. Please infuse me with beautiful green and gold healing light to help heal me. And please cut any cords that are no longer serving me. I do it in my business. I do it in my shows, my clients, my own mom at the end of the night, everybody. I love everyone so much. But also I love myself. And it's just saying, like, hey, maybe I was talking to my best friend and she had just a really shitty day and she's got all this stuff going on at work, and it doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean I don't love her. It just means I got to separate from her energy vortex for a little bit so that I can just come back into mine. And in the morning, as soon as you start talking again, as soon as you start thinking about things again, the cords start coming in. That's what I'm saying. They just get kind of transmuted and shifted. And so it can sound like a really scary thing, but really it's helping to break up the energy a little bit so that we don't keep perpetuating the past, and so that we can meet each other with new and fresh eyes and energies and grow. And if you're in a partnership, it's Valentine's Day. If you're in a romantic relationship, you got to show up with healthy communication, and you can only be responsible for yourself. And if your partner isn't really interested in stepping forward or hearing, you can't do anything about that other than choose what you need to do for your own healthy boundaries and to respect yourself.
Yes. I love that. See, it's so funny because, like, I don't know. I think I learned the most about myself during my second marriage because of what you just talked about. Like, I, in the past, once again, was a blamer, like, oh, this person, blah, 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 this person, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And it's not that I didn't take any responsibility. I think we can all say it's easier to point a finger at everybody else because it makes sense. If they're acting in this way, it's going to cause somebody a little bit of whatever. But at the same time, what pulls you into that relationship to begin with? Okay. What caused me to want to be with him to begin with and be in this toxic setting? I needed to learn about myself. This had nothing to do with him. And so legitimately, this was like so sad that I'm sharing this, but the day that I got married to him, the very next day I woke up crying because I was like, what did I do? I knew it was like the worst thing that I could have done with myself. And so I knew very shortly into this relationship, he was not my Mr. Forever. And so I had to talk with my team because I opened up the spirit in the very beginning of this relationship. So all of it was a crazy whirlwind of like Crystal getting her own shit together, which made it that much more stressful, I guess, on myself.
That was my poor Colorado boyfriend. It was like our 4th date and my spiritual awakening happened. And I was like, shit.
And then it's like, poof.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of stuff. And none of it had anything to do with him, really. Was he a bad person? He was. But that was his choice. And the things that he did were his choices to make. And so I sat with spirit and I was like, okay, so I know this isn't my Mr. Forever. This is my Mr. Right Now. And teach me the cycles that I keep enduring in my life to bring me to people like him. Because I'm not doing this again. I made the decision. I literally remember the day I sat down on my bed and I said, I'm making a decision. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. See, this type of relationship is not my type of relationship anymore. I want love. I want understanding. I want honesty. I want communication. I want all of the things. And I want actual love. I'm done feeling this way. And so in that moment, I opened the door to teaching me what keeps cycling me back into these same toxic situations.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes. And they delivered. Oh, did they deliver? And they're still delivering today. So, I mean, you ask, you will receive, and they'll give it to you like breadcrumbs, like Hansel and Gretel being led into the forest and back. They will give you the breadcrumbs. You just have to pick them up and acknowledge them as you see them. But there's so much in the spiritual growth. And I think a lot of people, we're like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do because we haven't been taught what to do. Okay. It's literally just talking to your people. That's what you do. You talk to them, you tell them how you feel, you explain to them what the situation is and how you want it to change, and say, make this happen for me, help me see, help me understand. That's it. And they will every single time. So I know my toxic patterns pretty damn well by now because they have force fed them down my throat. And so I'm always like, Crystal's the problem here instead of the latter now today.
I honor that, sister. And like, it can just happen in like, it happens for us when we start to realize that our relationships are a mirror in so many ways. And when I look back to like my most abusive relationship, I definitely walked into it like rose-colored glasses and wanting the best and all the things. And then I ended up with a really abusive person, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all the things. And when I look back and reflect on it, it's like, but I was so nice and I was so kind and I try to show up with all this love. And I'm sure almost all of the women in this group and people have been through this, and you're like, but I'm so kind to them. I don't understand. Like, why are they treating me like shit? And then when I really did the deep, dark look at understanding what my own self-talk was all day, every day, I would like, be out getting A's on papers and kicking ass at work and doing things. But at the end of the day, I'd call myself a fat, ugly bitch. I'd be really mean to myself. I'd tell myself I was worthless. I'd beat myself up more and more and more. And when I look back at the relationships that were the worst, my self-talk was the worst at those times too. Not only because of what was going on in the relationship, but because of other things, and because I was already being that brutal on myself. And we're mostly taught to talk shit to ourselves. Like, we've been bred in so many ways, and it's really radical and hard and a little uncomfortable. But man, do you get the light at the end of the tunnel when you start looking at all that stuff. And then you start to vibe differently. You start to shift a little different, and you're like, oh, you know what? Like, was it okay that person, was abusive to me? Like, no, not at all. But I can see where my energetic imprints and my thoughts about myself may have created this situation, or may have brought this person in to reflect just how bad it was going on with inside myself, so that I could find my own self-love and my own self-worth and plug that back in.
Exactly. I'm going to go back up to this one because Jennifer had said that she wanted to ask a question, and I'm gathering this is the question because it's the other Jennifer now. She says, okay, Miss Mitten. I love these names.
I know, you're a character.
I love this. I feel like I am a cartoon character most days, so it's cool. Jennifer seems to think my dad may be with you. I don't know. She wanted me to ask. If he is, he's not showing up. I did read the comment beforehand, but we were kind of jamming for a second, and I didn't want to break it up. If he is, he's not necessarily talking to me right now. But also, I'm gonna say, like, are you saying that he's like hanging out with me? Because that doesn't happen. You bring spirit to me. I don't bring spirit to other people, and it's one of those things that people are like, can I ask so and so a question when they're with me sometimes? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead. They're with you. They're not with me. They're not my people. And I know that's a little hard to distinguish sometimes because we think, but no, not in this moment. I don't feel dad with me, but it's not necessarily because he's not here. It just means he's not giving his energy to me, I guess is how I'll put that.
And then Jennifer also had a question, right? Other Jennifer Barnes Alvarado.
I don't know. I think that was the question.
Because it said Midge made a question. Oh, that was back up at 7:30.
Yep.
So if you have your question, Jennifer, go ahead and type it in down there. But all these comments are amazing. Hugs back. Heather said, oh man, I did need to hear that tonight. It's been a rough weekend. Thank you, ladies. Sending you the love. It has. It's just, there's all those full moon energies are coming in, and it's just a little bit of that breaking point energy. And it doesn't have to be super chaotic or bad. Sometimes it's just like your own shit. Like I was talking to a client this morning who's really into like, all right, I want to stick to this and do this. And I'm like the only person in my way. So I just got to show up and like really just do it at this point. And it's just that kind of lighting a fire in your ass kind of energy is going on with this full moon right now.
Yeah, spirit has been like really beating it into me to like make a manifestation board, and I'm like, I don't want to make a manifestation board.
Oh, do
I know what
it.
I'm manifesting. I know what I'm manifesting, and I'm like, I don't want to make a board. But apparently, I literally have boards sitting like right next to me, like, and so it's so stupid how they're doing it. And I'm like, just do it, Crystal. The last one I made was last year when I wanted to move to Florida, and obviously they've decided to change that location for me. So it's cool. It'll be what it's going to be, but apparently I need to do it in different forms because I journal, but at the same time they want me to make boards. So whatever is stirring in your soul, y'all, feel it, honor it, do it, follow it, is how I'm going to say it.
That same client I was just talking about, same thing. She goes, oh my God, I found this piece of paper where I manifested all this stuff and I was doing vision boards with a friend or something. She's like, and I didn't really want to. I was like, no, I want to keep watching Harry Potter. I don't want to write all this down. And then she found this list and she manifested everything on it. She couldn't believe it. And the key to manifesting is when you kind of want it, but you don't want it, is like the secret spot to have it. And it's really hard to explain, but that's where this whole unattachment thing comes in. You set in a hard intention, like, yes, this would be great if I accomplish this goal. I did this, like, this is my intention. I'm going to do it. It's awesome. Then you cut the cord and you stop thinking about it as much. You don't obsess over it. You don't focus on it as much. And you just get back into the daily things that we need to do to co-create. And then all of a sudden things start falling into place. And Glenda had a really cool comment. She said, does it matter what color you use? I like to use rose gold. And yeah, I'm extra, but does the color have a meaning? And so I like that question. You can answer that first. Go for it.
So I do believe that it has to do with pink being love and pink being heart chakra. And so I just, and I know that like there's two different colors. There's different colors in each chakra. It's not just this or that. There's different color representations of energy that they provide. And so I do believe when she talks about that, she talks about that because of the pink, light, and love representing the heart and the healing that's going into you as also to them, to kind of bring like not only you guys back together, but also to heal whatever wounds were kind of brought up in that moment and to actually heal your own space as well. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone, I guess, is how it's being presented. And rose gold, I think, would be just as awesome because there's nothing wrong with sprinkling a little bit of like divinity in there too. So I guess
we can work with any colors. And
the
cool thing about the rose, the pink too, like that's like rose quartz is super loving and healing, and it's those colors. And the cosmic colors are incredible, and there's so many, and they all do incredible, amazing things. And if you intuitively are like, I just really want to work with orange today, like let that happen. It's probably coming in and it's rocking and nourishing your sacral region, and who knows what else it's bringing in. When I'm asking the angels to surround me and protect me, I like to say white and blue light. White is just all encompassing. It's an amplifier. I kind of like to think crystals, like clear quartz. And then the blue I associate with Archangel Michael and his legion. So I associate that really nice, beautiful electric blue coming in and protecting me. And then when it comes to the white and green light, I like that for healing because that's Archangel Raphael and his legion, and that can come in and heal your body. But you can use any light that you want. I'm in some amazing meditation groups, and we'll send out all kinds of different colors and lights all the time. And it's amazing what it does. So intuitively allow that to work with you. And if the rose gold is speaking to you, sister, go for it.
Yes. Jennifer says 3 high fives, guys. I am proud and appreciate your self-accountability for sharing space and opening up. And then she says, our fathers have been with us. I'm curious if you sense them. I do not sense your fathers, but here's the fun thing about you, Jennifer. Actually, I'm going to say the Jennifers is how I'm going to say this. I don't know Jennifer.
Like Enchantress with white light or something too. You haven't looked up your...
So I don't know if you say your last name Merat. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but I want to say the two Jennifers. If both of you have losses from father figures on the other side, how I'm going to say this is sometimes when people are in the midst of their own spiritual awakening, first off, one of the things that frustrates us the most, and I'm loud and clear to all spiritual people, please hear this. What peeves us off the most is that we tend to pick up things for other people, but why the hell can't I feel my loved ones? Okay? I can't channel my loved ones, y'all. And there are probably going to be people out there who say that they can. Cool for them. If they do, whatever. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm specifically going to say that my guides, through my experience, have taught me that I'm not allowed to essentially channel my loved ones' loved ones. not in the way that I can for other people. Why? Because first off, I can feel them. I can connect with them. I know when they're there. They pop into my head. They pop into my heart. My grandma makes pizza crust with me. She taught me how to make a pecan pie. I've never met the woman. And so how we connect is very different, and it's going to be based off from your growth, your experience. Both of you women are currently in the midst of a spiritual awakening based on how it's being presented to me. Both of you are opening doors to your own amazing gifts. One of you are much more analytical in your thought process than the other one. And I feel like one of you are very spiritual like me. I'm that fairy energy. I just kind of like go with the flow. And that's how I used to be. Very much a dreamer. Okay. The analytical one, I'm not sure who I'm talking about, but they're separating you two. The analytical one isn't necessarily analytical. They just really like knowledge. Okay. And so they're almost making me feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to connect you more right now with the feelings and the emotions of I know. And so what's kind of playing into your life a little bit is the taking things as they come, but also understanding that spirit can't give us the answers to our lives. And so even if they allowed your dads to come through and be like, poof, here it is, poof, that's validation. The one damn person I've ever wanted to talk to in my life has like only come through one time. And it wasn't even the validation that I really wanted. It answered a lot of questions, but it wasn't what I wanted. And so I think it's important to remember that if you are a gifted person, it's always going to be harder to connect with your own people because they're helping you every single day from a different perspective of light. They can't give you the answers the way that we want them presented because that's essentially cheating our life test. And they can't do that for us. So pay attention to the smaller signs around the both of you in your own separate ways. One of them is making me feel like one is very heart-centered, but don't want to be heart-centered. Okay. They're really making me feel like the heart-centered energy specifically lately is really messing with your like conscious energy because it's almost like the Hoover Dam being broke down inside and flooding all these emotions out from all these things that we don't understand. And we're having a really hard time kind of focusing that energy. The other person is getting more of a feeling, seen type of energy together, but it's not the conversation that we would expect or experience. So when I'm channeling spirit, I kind of need a multitude of things. If I just get an image in my head with no feelings behind it, it makes it more difficult for me to understand. But we also have to understand that all spirit has their own personalities. And so some people were not as open with their communication and open with their words and their feelings. And so that's also how they're going to kind of come through and be perceived. And so they're almost making me feel like each one of you are getting taught, but in two very different ways, how to receive your loved ones. And it's actually to help you guys take this next step up into your own journey through spiritual healing. And so even though this is how it feels today, and I know you guys see them and feel them because they're making me feel like you actually get stuff. Like I feel like one of you actually has like electronical malfunctions all the time, completely all the time. I feel like one of you sees more actual things like rocks, pebbles, probably change, physical attributes of things, feathers are being shown to me. So there are ways that they're coming through. It's just not connecting all the dots that you're asking here. So are they with you? Yes. Are they with me? Probably not because they ain't my dad. But at the same time, they're here in this moment to let you know that yes, they're coming through very different ways. And it's more so based on where you're at spiritually and your, I guess, ascension process and what you're learning how to utilize for yourself, if that makes sense to you. Ah. Oh, Heather said that she has to run. But I hope you have a great night. Thank you, Crystal and Mandee. Mandee, I'll see you Wednesday.
Oh, yay. Heather will be at Angel class. Yes, if you're interested. I saw that. Yes, I was muted. I started talking about how, it's a vibration thing. And when we're up in our soul, back in our soul level, like, and our angels, like, can't just come through and be like, what's up? How's it going? I totally want to talk to you right now and tell you all these things. They would if they could, but it's like some people do get words like that, but it's much more connecting in the subtle energy realms, and it's about the signs, and it's about the synchronicities, and it's about the imprints that come in. And so if you feel like you're sensing some signs from your loved ones, odds are you are. And it's important to just say, hey, I'm so happy you're here. Keep communicating with me. Keep laughing. And like just funny things like you'll be thinking about something and all of a sudden you'll think like, oh my gosh, my dad probably would have thought this was funny. And then all of a sudden like a door closes, or all of a sudden you see like a really cool like crow fly across the window or something. And you're like, okay. And so that's when you'll get your confirmations. That's a lot of times when they'll come in and they'll start communicating with you. But actually hearing words like coming in is intense and not easy for spirit to manipulate and do. So it can happen. It's possible, but it's not common.
Yeah, see, I actually hear words, but they're more so in thoughts in my head. So that's why I'm always like, it's not necessarily outside audible that I hear it. A lot of people hear like the whispers of from other rooms, or the music taking place. Spirit can do that, but we can't really pinpoint what exactly is being said. And that's why it's important to try to open up to all realms of everything, which is really trying to fix, heal, and emotionally create a safe space for spirit to come through in all of those realms of understanding and all of those chakras. That's why they speak through thoughts, feelings, emotions, ego, imagery, senses. And so when we're able to connect with all of those things together in channeling, I feel like it's kind of like a really cool space for spirit to be able to utilize what all of those things are. But it's also hard. It's hard for them. It's hard for me sometimes. I'm not even going to lie. Sometimes I thank the angels for like giving me the energy needed to get through an hour, because like I know I don't have it that day. And so sometimes it's like it's really difficult on both ends of the spectrum sometimes for the connection to take place because of any reasons. And so be gracious and loving to yourself that you're picking up what you're picking up, and thank them in the moment and say, hey, look, if there's more to that message and you guys want me to know a little bit more, then I thank you for showing me with clarity when it's meant for me to come. And just give it away, and they will. I have found, I'm sure Mandee has, I'm sure all of you have, like I've asked for things 3 or 4 years ago that they're just now giving me the answers to now. It takes place over time. And so I think that's a beautiful thing to remember when we get impatient or don't understand. They don't give it to us all at once. Mandee, do you remember when you first connected with me? Like I was in a spiritual breakdown, essentially. Do you remember that? Like I was at a space where I didn't want to do anything.
I remember, I feel like the first time I talked to you, gosh, it was probably like four years ago now, over the radio show.
Yeah.
You were working for like a shop or something, and you were getting ready to like leave there and go and do your own thing or like do something different. And you were totally like, oh my God. And then there was a while you took a break from things and you were like, I got to do some shit. And then you came back. Oh yeah.
So the only reason I said that is because during that moment in time, I do believe it started in 2018, like spirit took away my gifts. Okay. They literally like said no more. Why? Because I wasn't taking care of myself. And the one thing that, first off, I was livid, y'all, livid with spirit. Like, why the hell would you put me through this? Like, why would you open me up just to take everything away? Because it's the only thing in my life right now that really gives me any sort of like peace. So yay for you. But I was like, what is going on? And the one thing that kept going back was, Crystal, you have to go back to the start. Okay. And I thought I did. Like I went back to the start and I restarted. I had been channeling, I think, for like 5 or 6 years before going into that shop by myself. And I'm much better alone, not necessarily not co-creating with other people, but not in the way that was presented. It was just a weird space and energy for me. Yeah, it was very strange. I feel like, I don't know. But it literally just got answered for me last Friday, what they meant by going back to the start. That was in 2018. I asked the question. They just gave me the answer last Friday. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I understand. I was not taking care of myself. In the very beginning, I did the boundaries. I made the conversations be what the conversations needed to be in my space. And over the years, I got lackadaisy with taking care of me, not taking care of my clients, but not requiring people to have safe space with me, which was making me sick again, because in between 2018 and 2022, let's not talk about all of the weird illnesses that popped up in Crystal's life. I wasn't taking care of me. And so what they meant was, Crystal, we need to relook at boundaries again. We need to hold safe conversations again. We need to make sure that we're shutting people down again and not having conversations with people who aren't going to respect your boundaries and not talk about gossip or not bring up drama or not do these things, because you're not holding a space with yourself right now that's in a good place to have those conversations. And so it literally was bestowed upon me in 2022 for something that got brought up in the end of 2018, early 2019. We have to be patient with the process. It will always come when we need it, and it may be confusing and we may move through it and forget completely, but they will always drop it back into our vision and say, okay, this is what we were talking about. Why? Because now I'm picking up and now I'm moving to a different space, and they want me to once again make sure that I'm doing things in a positive way, because I'm gathering they have different opportunities for me, and they have different things that they want me to be a part of. And so they're asking me to pull myself back together, essentially, and once again create that healthy, happy space for myself like I used to, and not care about what other people have to say about it. So it all ties into what we were talking about tonight, but at the same time, you have to be patient with spirit and how they give you the messages, and understand the clarity will come. We just got to ask them for it.
And when we're in overwhelm, we get shut down. You know, we do have to experience overwhelm sometimes, but it's really, like Crystal said, it's about finding your medicines and plugging back into your own light, because if you're not, you can't be of service. You can't be of service to yourself. You can't be of service to anyone else. It's just how it works.
Yes. So take care of yourself. And thank you so very much, Jennifer. You guys are awesome. Glenda was like, Mandee is muted. she figured it out.
Always does.
Jennifer says, thank you again. I appreciate that, Mitch. Dead on. I'm grateful for you. Glenda says, by the way, Crystal, my email is sent my stories. And yeah, writing down my stories helped me realize how much I was picking up at different stages in my life. That's amazing. And that's wonderful. And that's kind of the cool thing about our aha moments. Jennifer says, Jen M had to run. She said, thank you, ladies. Thank you, Jen. And then Jennifer also says, I feel like something happened around that time. I had a similar experience. I had to be put on my butt and rely on those around me for me to snap back. And so, yeah, it's weird how spirit does that to us, but also there's reasons for it, even though we get really, really frustrated. I wasn't happy with myself how I handled that, by the way. Boy, have I apologized to spirit, because my tiny toddler, whew, let's just say we were in a grocery store and I was not getting the toy, and I was pissed. So I was not okay with that moment.
Unconditionally. And that's the thing. It's like when it comes down to it, we just got to forgive ourselves and be like, wow, I was acting like a child, but my child needed to do what it had to do. And now here we are. So it's okay.
Mandee, my dear, how can people find you? And once again, what is your class this Wednesday? And do you have any other classes? Anybody else have any classes or upcoming events that are taking place at Sea Goddess Healing Arts?
So this Wednesday, we have an online class. We do some online classes and some in-person classes. So this week we have an online class on Wednesday night, full moon workshop, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a couple hours, $33 on Zoom. You can sign up on SeaGoddessHealingArts.com under our classes. There's a registration. Then we have an in-person workshop coming up on Tuesday, 2/22/22 day. And that's going to be a self-love and self-care workshop in Ventnor, New Jersey at the Shift Studio. And then also there's going to be a couple classes coming up in March, and we're creating a membership that will include a lot of amazing things. So that's on the burners. Plus we've got a festival coming up in May if you're in the New Jersey area, or if you want to travel here, May 7th, Light and Sound Healing Arts Festival. We're looking for vendors and presenters, and it's just fantastic. So thank you all for tuning in and being with us. As always, we love our Monday nights with each and every one of you. Crystal, I'm so grateful for you. And how can our viewers get a hold of you or give you a like, a share, a follow on your stuff?
You can see, if you want a reading, you can go to Mitten Medium. I also have a email page, which is what Glenda was talking about. I do scary stories. If y'all got any paranormal stories, I've kind of started paranormal AA, without the A, a paranormal A, I guess is what I should say. So you can tell your stories. You can either be on the show, you can send them in, I can read them. If you want advice, you can ask for advice. You can talk about things. It's whatever. I can sit and listen to. And I am going to say that is, Spirit Speaks at Spirit Speaks MMM at yahoo.com. if you want to share those. And also, it is on my YouTube page. And Vanessa had said, I didn't see this one. She said, are you guys able to do readings, or is this just a chat? Usually we do readings, but we were apparently pulled in the direction of conversating tonight. So yes, in the future, Vanessa, if you want to show up, we do these on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you just have to kind of put your question in and or ask Mandee or I or whatever to pull a card, or, hey, talk to spirit. People got anything for me? And that's really how we handle that. So next time, just ask, and we will provide that the best way that you can.
I am going to pull a card after you share your stuff for us to end on.
That's okay. And so that's it. That's all. That you can find me those places. Give us likes, shares, and all those fun things, because it helps. Thank you for sharing energy with us.
Medium and Sea Goddess Healing Arts. We are on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the things. And then just a little message from Spirit tonight as we close out this show and move into the rest of our week in this full moon energy. Jump in, Andromedan energy, adventure, change. Say yes to change. So this is so exciting. And the Andromedans, they talk about how they were kind of like this. They're these species, beings that are revolutionary peacemakers and are into personal freedom. And the only way we can do that is when we truly choose to jump on in and say yes to change, and what that looks like. That just might mean waking up each morning and going for a walk. That might be jumping into a new group or studying a new book. It might be allowing yourself to start a new eating plan, or think of things in a different way, or starting to say, you know what, I'm going to work with the angels and ask them to surround me in white and blue light each day and see how that goes. Say yes right now. It's the time where the old things are kind of dying off. The new seeds are starting to stir, and this full moon energy is radically shifting the old things out. So say yes to change, jump on in, and we're so glad that you're here with us for this ride. Sending you all the love tonight, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Be well to yourselves. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a nice night. Thank you, Mandee. Thank you for that. I'm sure hopefully Vanessa will see it. So thank you so much.
Take care.